What's up, Colorado Realtors? I'm Scott Peterson. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Legal Bites. It's another quarantine edition. Doors still closed, and this hair is clearly been under quarantine for some time. But I think kind of in line with what I'm here to report to you guys today, I might have some solutions for my head and for your businesses. So it's Tuesday, the 21st of April, just before noon here. And as most of you guys know, yesterday afternoon, Governor Polis held a press conference and made some pretty important updates and announcements to everybody. And so I'm sure most of you have heard about this. I want to provide you with what clarity we have and let you know kind of what we're doing and some of the next steps. So here you go. Based on the governor's press conference yesterday, come this April 26th, Sunday, April 26th, the stay-at-home order that is currently in place will be expiring, and that will be allowed to expire. And what will go into its place immediately thereafter and become effective Monday, April 27th, next week, is the safer at home order, which is a lot more of an encouragement, to be responsible. And if you're within certain risk categories, obviously to continue staying at home and so forth. But it comes with some important assistance for, I think, our industry, because in the press conference itself, one of the things that was on his slide specifically indicated that for real estate transactions, they will now be contemplating showings. And so as many of you know, showings formally went away a few weeks ago. And so without a contract on a property, you didn't have a real estate transaction, and therefore you couldn't do any in-person things such as showings. And obviously that was really difficult, has been really difficult for our industry. And that is currently what is in place and will be through Sunday, but that's changing Monday. So how's it changing? We're not exactly sure fully just yet. We do know that showings will be acknowledged, and they're going to be providing some additional guidance as well with regard to some other aspects. And so CAR has been asked to participate in that additional guidance and providing what our thoughts are in terms of what a transaction is going to need in order to open that front end of the pipeline and be able to get new listings on the market and up to that point of an actual executed contract, because that's where we've really been a bit hamstrung over the last several weeks is the point of the listing through the contract period. And so anyhow, the plan is we'll be providing our feedback to the governor's office at their request, and what we're going to be indicating is that in order to open that front end of the pipeline, what we'll need are some ability to perform some marketing or business development kind of services. And so there's essentially 4 bullet points that we're indicating are going to be super important for our members, for you guys to be able to perform and to really to impact positively consumers, because ultimately there's a lot of buyers that are needing to buy right now. There's a lot of sellers that are needing to sell for a variety of reasons, and really for all intents and purposes that's been really clogged up at that front end. So anyhow, our 4 bullet points essentially are to allow for scheduled listing appointments with prospective buyers, sellers, landlords, or tenants. So if you want to schedule a listing appointment, do it in person, or you could do it in person. I think using Zoom or some other online technology platform, Google Hangouts, whatever have you, to have those preliminary meetings and listing appointments with your clients is probably still a pretty fantastic practice that you and your clients, prospective clients, will appreciate. But the ability to actually get with somebody and review a listing agreement and some of that preliminary stuff is something that we're saying is an important feature of what ought to be acknowledged in the safer at home order. The second thing we're asking for are the ability to place lockboxes and real estate signage. That has not been permitted under the current order. I think it needs to be, because obviously getting a lockbox on a property and a sign in front of the house is a critical piece of getting the property on the market and going. Real estate virtual and still photography, super important. I think virtual photography with the quality of what you can get out there, you might see a lot more of that as you should. And that gives buyers the ability to maybe not have to do so many showings. In other words, they can, with some of the great technology, can really drill into a home and maybe decide, listen, I can tell just by looking at this virtual tour that I don't need to see it, in which case, less contact. So that's very positive. So still photography, virtual photography, certainly critical pieces of your marketing and we are requesting that those will be accepted activities under the Safer at Home order. And then the last one is to clarify for showings that showings be scheduled and private and with no more than 3 people present in a residence at any one time. And showings would apply for leasing as well as most predominantly sales, obviously, but anyhow, no more than 3 people present. That contemplates, kind of 2 decision makers, potential buyers, and then a buyer's agent to potentially be there as well. All of those activities, of course, will need to be done while people are strictly adhering to social distancing guidelines. And I think you're going to get maybe some more clarification from the governor's office in the coming days on that piece as well. And so those are the 4 points we are requesting be specifically allowed. So there's no confusion, no disclarity, nothing in the coming days. Obviously, that's up to them ultimately in terms of what they allow. But we are already, even as of last night, sort of reaching out and advocating with the governor's office in order to really fully acknowledge the importance to consumers and to real estate brokers and to the Colorado economy as a whole, that those 4 things, I think, would get a property comfortably up and onto the market, get it up to the point of an actual contract, at which point you have a real estate transaction. And now, all of those other activities such as inspections and walkthroughs and closings and all of those other in-person activities are, as they are currently allowed, would still be allowed. And so pretty important development yesterday, I think, as it relates to real estate transactions. Again, hang tight. I had a lot of questions about it. People want clarity, and the governor's office has not given clarity yet, but those points are what we have what we are working to try and illustrate to them are super important pieces to this puzzle for everybody. So want to mention a couple of other things. First of all, on May 4th, if you've got a real estate brokerage office, and we're going to be going back for office businesses are going to be effective May 4th, we'll be allowed to go up to 50% of staff, at any one time. So, if you've got a brokerage firm and you're going to open that up, and let's say you've got, 20 brokers and office support staff and management or whatever, 10 of those individuals could be present in that office space at one time. Of course, strict social distancing guidelines in place and everything else. You're going to have to be really, really responsible here because this was, when we go back to the original stay-at-home order, I think there was a broader interpretation of that showings were allowed. And then we had some complaints and some issues related to, I don't want to say bad actors, but people that weren't necessarily being fully respectful of the spirit and intent. And that resulted in complaints, and that resulted in a big scale back of what's been done here. And so the same thing could happen. I mean, to the extent that people are just sort of, trying to do business as usual, I think it's an enormous mistake. So that I'm back to that cliche of, with great power comes great responsibility. And so it is really important to be mindful of all of that. Other thing I want to mention is this: local municipal limitations. I know there's a number of cities and counties in the state of Colorado that have what effective Monday will be more restrictive limitations in that local jurisdiction than what we have now at the state with the Safer at Home policy, the new policy. So in that case, those local limitations would still control if they're greater than what the state's is. And so if you're doing business in an area that has that, you've got to be mindful of what those limitations are, because those may still be in place in many areas, even if it's just for a number of days after the expiration of the state order on the 26th of April. So don't assume that you're get passed with that. But anyhow, I'm going to leave that there. Again, what we do know is what's coming is showings are going to be allowed. What criteria around those are what we're working to make sure that the governor's office and the affiliated government agencies understand what we know is an essential part of what you guys do. And so we're working hard to advocate for that, but we won't have none of that will be final other than at least some form of showings, which was, I think, formally announced yesterday. Any additional limitations aren't going to be final until they're formally announced by the governor's office. And as soon as that happens, at some point, presumably later this week, I will jump back here and I will be able to give you guys an up-to-the-minute sort of version of what can and cannot happen. In the meantime, know that we are working hard to try and CAR is working hard to try and make sure that your businesses are fully acknowledged for the incredible, important financial drivers they are, for the consumer benefits that you guys have in this really critical time for both buyers and sellers, and for the income drivers that we know they are for you guys as well. So anyhow, hope that gives you some good information. As always, the legal hotline is available from 9 to 12 and 1 to 4 through Friday. And feel free to call that if you need more clarification, but hopefully this video takes care of that. And again, I'll be back later this week as soon as I have some more information on additional clarification that's coming. So stay safe and healthy, guys. And I'm happy to get here with what I think is truly a positive update, and shows that we are, making progress on the upswing of this thing, and headed back to some additional sense of normalcy, if not complete sense of normalcy at some point, hopefully. So take care, guys. We'll see you soon.